Hey guys, Sonic's here. Pokémon Green. For some reason, the very mention of this game brings back playground memories where we'd gossip and speculate on the supposed what-ifs of this mysterious hidden game. Did it exist? What was it? Is it true that if you stood on the 7th tile of the Saffron City Gym on the 3rd Tuesday of the month under a full moon, a wild Celebi would appear? No, wait. It may surprise you to know that Pokémon Green is a Japan-exclusive game, meaning, unlike Red and Blue, it never saw an international release. Confused? Let me break it down for you. It's a popular misconception that Pokémon Red and Blue, which were later localized for worldwide release, were the versions first made in Japan. In fact, the Pokémon Red Japan got was very different to what we'd received over in the UK and the US and so on and so forth. Confused even more? It's time for a history lesson. In February 1996, Japan saw the first ever Pokémon games for the original Game Boy, Pokémon Red and Green versions. Despite a great number of sales, the games themselves were not overly popular. Many people complained of ugly monsters and glitches. Taking on the feedback from players, Game Freak made Pokémon Blue version, which featured updated graphics, a whole host of game fixes and glitches, as well as a code for translation which allowed it to be localized worldwide. It was then that translation and localization teams across the world took Pokémon Blue and created Pokémon Red, which we know today. This formed the pair to allow completion of the Pokédex via the link cable. So why was Green left out? Well, there's no official information, but considering that the Japanese version of Pokémon Blue was the most complete as of that point, it seemed far easier to keep it as Blue version rather than mirror Japan, or even bother to create a Green version as a third game. Pokémon Green version is actually quite different to the games we received. There are a lot of myths surrounding the game, so let's take a look at the finer details. Number 5. You can't catch all 151 Pokémon. It's commonly believed that Pokémon Green contains all 151 Pokémon available for capture. This simply isn't true. The Pokémon missing from Green version are identical to those missing in the localized Blue version. The likes of Cypher, Electabuzz and Growlithe all require the player to link up with the opposite version to complete the Pokédex. Many Westerners have viewed Pokémon Green as the third game in the first generation, and was designed with the intention of making the Pokédex easy to fill. Despite this, it is actually slightly easier to fill a Pokédex in Green and Red versions. Why? Well... Number 4. Wild encounters are mostly the same. It seems to be a common misconception that many Pokémon that are not normally obtainable in the wild are so in Green version. This is mostly false, though certain encounter rates and locations for Pokémon such as Ditto and the Rock Tunnel were changed. The changes are actually in the Japanese Blue version. In this version, Jinx can be found in Seafoam Islands and Lickitung can be found in the Safari Zone. But in Green version, the Pokémon locations are actually the same as they are in the localized versions for Red and Blue. For some reason, it's widely accepted that many Pokémon such as Tauros and Kangaskhan are available via in-game trades. This is again true for the Japanese version of Blue. The in-game trades for Pokémon Green are identical to those in the localized versions. This is one of the most common misconceptions about Green version that I even found myself believing until making this video and doing some research. Number 3. The game looks the same as the localized versions. Whilst graphical updates were needed, for the most part the overworld itself remained the same. Another common misconception about Pokémon Green is that the world itself is entirely different. Very few overworld locations were changed for the worldwide releases, as Game Freak focused mainly on sprite artwork and animation. One of the reasons why Game Freak never decided to release Green internationally was the high number of complaints received about the sprites. The Pokémon were thought to be poorly crafted, ugly, and just downright unappealing. With the release of the anime, it was decided that a revamp of the artwork would be needed. Whilst the Pokémon Blue sprites aren't exactly amazing by today's standards, no one can deny that they're an improvement on the initial releases. Look at this Mew and tell me this isn't the face of something in constant ceaseless agony. Number 2. Lavender Town music did not drive Japanese children to suicide. The internet loves itself an urban legend. It was reported that in 1996, due to the frequency of the Lavender Town music, many Japanese children either suffered from psychotic episodes or were drove to suicide. This seems to be one of those wild stories that had stood the test of time. Due to the timing of the release, the internet was not widely available, so stories such as this swept across communities by ear. Chinese whispers basically. Or would that be Japanese whispers? I don't know. Anyway, there isn't a single report of any incident involving this track. However, part of the feedback Game Freak received regarding Red and Green when making Blue, many players reported that the music was irritating, sharp, and even painful to listen to at times. However, the Lavender Town music is in fact a pitch higher in those versions, so it was swiftly toned down in the updated Blue and subsequent localized versions. Generation 1 was rife with rumours that became urban myths due to the lack of credible sources. My best friend's dad, who works at Nintendo, says that if you go to Lavender Town and play the Poké Flute 500 times, a Kabutops will appear and eat your goldfish. I may be onto something here. Number 1. Mew is not available outside of glitching and events. Pokémon Red and Green were released in February 1996, but were actually scheduled for December 1995. The development of the games was not smooth. In fact, Game Freak went close to bankruptcy during development, and 5 employees quit due to the financial pressure on the company. It's reasonable then to suggest that the release was pushed back due to problems found after the debugging process had been completed. This makes the fact that Shigeki Morimoto programmed Mew after the debugging process even crazier. He programmed in Mew, the 151st Pokemon, and it was kept a secret from the public until it was decided to launch it at an event. Mew is one of my all-time favourite Pokemon due to this reason. However, despite it being a wild rumour, Mew is not available any more than it is in the other Generation 1 games. It's been believed that if you were to capture all 150 Pokemon and speak to the director in Celadon City, the player would receive Mew as a special bonus. Whilst this is a great idea and I'd love to see it implemented one day, it's not true. Mew is available via the popular Nugget Bridge glitch, and amazingly, despite being introduced in the finished version, has no negative impact on the game once caught. Oh Mew. So there you have it, 5 facts about the mysterious Pokémon Green. Whilst we live in an age where information is so freely available, there are still so many misconceptions about Pokémon Green and many articles claiming facts are simply not true. Having played through Pokémon Green, it's not the mysterious and completely different game that the rumours on the playground suggested. Disappointing? Perhaps, but it's still really interesting to see just how far the games have come by visiting the original games. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Take care.